Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio Show, formerly known as Conscious TV. And we have a wonderful guest. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. With Tom and Ramon. And I'm Ramon, and Tom's on with me. And we have a wonderful guest today. But before we bring them in, let me just go over some quick things. Keep in mind that me and Tom do work, and this comes out of our pocket, so if you ever able to help us, please donate. We don't ask for much. And that'll help to pay for the people who can't, because we don't charge for our archives. It's all free, so you can go and listen to our first show. And also, let's see. We have, me and Tom have got more into doing healing and tarot. I do healing, and Tom does tarot work, which I'm hearing a lot of great things about him on the internet. People are talking about you, Tom.
Oh, geez, look out. I'm having fun with it. I really enjoy doing it. Whenever I can do something, when I get the feedback of people going, wow, thank you, you know, that hits a spot in my heart that nothing else comes close to. So absolutely love doing it. So tonight we have somebody that is very well known in this area, in this field. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little portion of a foreword he wrote in a book called Confessions of an Intergalactic Anthropologist by his wife, Marcia Schaefer. Each of us is poised on the steps of a doorway into a frightening and infinite new reality. Our old world is over, and an uncertain future awaits us all. This new age, this new paradigm, and a totally new form of life is evolving and is inevitable. We cannot run from it, we cannot hide from it, and we cannot try to avoid it, because it is here and it is now. Where we are going will take courage and strength. I suspect many of us will not make the transition. Many of us will falter. Some of us are not ready, and all of us are a little bit afraid of this unknown. So, Bob Dean, I read that. Actually, I was going through this book again this afternoon, and I read that, and I thought, well, you know, that pretty much puts it in a nutshell right there. That was an amazing foreword for Marcia's book. So,
yeah, that pretty much.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. So,
I would say that sums it up. That's actually probably one of the best ways I ever heard it put. What's going on right now with us?
So there's so many changes going on right now, Bob, that and what I'm seeing even in the UFO field from so many of the nuts and bolts guys are starting to put things together and realize that there's much more than just the nuts and bolts going on here. This goes into a spiritual aspect that is essential to truly understand what's going on.
Well, the nuts and bolts aspect of it is only about 5 or 10% of it at the most. From the very beginning, I've tried to make the point that this is predominantly a spiritual matter. The human race, the entire species, literally, is in a transition. We're going through what I call a transformative change. We're a transcendent transformation, actually, into a new species. The entire planet, the entire species, the human race, is undergoing this transition, and it's a difficult time. It's an awkward time, and the analogy I use, it's like children going through adolescence into adulthood.
Right. So
and, it's a difficult time, and the entire planet is involved. But essentially, it's not the UFO matter. It's not the nuts and bolts. I'm to a point anymore where I even dislike the term UFO. You know, it's it's so unreal because they're
Right.
not unidentified. We've known for years what they are.
Right.
But people have got to get beyond that and realize that we're not alone. We've never been alone, and the human species has had what I call it an intimate interrelationship with advanced extraterrestrial intelligence from the very beginning of our history. And that intimate interrelationship is still underway.
So why do you think it's been so covert through the ages?
Well, it's a matter of power and control. You know, the secret, the reality of their presence, the reality of our relationship with them. The truth, and the truth will come out eventually, is going to literally set us free. But the cover up, the lie, it's a matter of power. It's a matter of control. And our so-called elite, our so-called powers that be, are scared to death to let this damn thing out, because when it really does all come out eventually, they're not going to be in charge anymore, and that scares the hell out of them.
Yeah, I can see that. You can kind of see that I kind of see that their control and that is starting to slip through their fingers right now, and I kind of see that as their reactions are very evident in the world today. All the distractions and the wars and the fear that they're trying to throw out all over the place.
Especially with this last one. Oh, by the way, Bob, how did you enjoy the end of the world for you on the 21st?
I thought that was sad. That was pathetic, you know?
Yes, it was.
My heart goes out to those people. They're scared to death, and they don't really know their history, and they don't really know the reality of who they are and why they're here and what this is all about. And I find it like, you know, a bunch of little children. They're literally frightened to death, and I thought the whole thing was very, very sad.
Yeah, there's the fact that the guy was been collecting people's life savings and people just throwing money at him left and right. And I saw one guy that asked him a question here a couple of weeks ago. Asked him if on the 22nd, if all these people that had given him money on the 22nd, was he going to be returning it to him? And he didn't have much of a comment for that.
Well, that whole matter was inexcusable. You know, taking people's money, scaring the pants off of them. That was beyond. Was beyond excuse. That was sad.
Yeah. So let's get away from that. That's kind of ugly situation. I just don't really want to deal with it at all. So,
Yeah.
Now I heard in some of the interviews that I've heard of yours before that you actually are able to remember some of your past lives.
I went through a series of past life hypnotic regressions a number of years ago. And it was an experience that literally changed my life. I'd always had these nagging suspicions, these nagging feelings about other times and other places. And I wanted to find out what the hell it was all about, because, you know, I was attracted to certain parts of the world, and I was attracted to certain periods of time. And I had no reason for it. I couldn't figure it out. So I went through a series of regressions. And when it all was over, I was a changed person. I simply have not been the same since, because I found myself a very qualified hypnotist. And she put me through a series of regressions. I went through, I think, 4 separate sessions, and I came up with, I think, 5 separate lives And the one that we found on the last it was so overwhelming to me that the emotion of it was so literally shocking and overwhelming that I had to stop the whole damn thing. I came up with a life in Galilee 2,000 years ago that I had never, ever dreamed of or expected. And let me tell you something about a hypnotic regression. When you get into the state where you get into a kind of a trauma state, and you don't just remember, you literally relive the emotion and the power, and it comes pouring up out of your subconscious, and it literally can be overwhelming. And I tell people who might be giving some thought to it, it's an interesting experience, but you have to be careful because it could open up some Pandora's boxes for you that you might not be prepared for.
Yeah,
And,
I've been thinking about.
I found a life in Galilee 2,000 years ago, and the emotional impact of that was so overwhelming that I had to call a screeching halt to the entire process. And it changed my life, literally.
So,
and over the years, I have found that I have been subjected to what I call spontaneous recollections. When you go through that process, and they literally, open up your subconscious, you find that you are subject to what I call spontaneous recollections. And, watching a movie, listening to a piece of music, reading a book, looking at a piece of lovely scenery or something can trigger a remembrance of a past life. And as I said, when it starts coming up to you, it's not that you're simply remembering. You literally are reliving the events. And the emotional involvement can be pretty overpowering sometimes. So that did change me a lot, and I think it probably triggered the devotion and the dedication to what I've been doing now for the last 20 years.
So, prior to going through that, did you know in your heart? Did you know that reincarnation was a real phenomena?
Well, I had been pretty well convinced of it most of my life. Yeah. You see, I'm one of those weird characters, I guess. I have a vivid memory of being born.
Wow.
I used to tell my mother, I remember being born, and she says, now, Bobby, no, you don't. I said, no, the hell I will remember, Mom. I was there, remember? And anyhow, I remembered the birth experience. And all throughout my life, I've always had this reality, this realization that reincarnation was a real bit of truth. And never doubted it, actually. I think that's what triggered my insistence on having this series of past life regressions. Because I wanted to know a little bit about it. I wanted to know, some of the background. Well, I literally, as I said, opened up Pandora's box, and I got more than I expected. And it changed my life, literally.
For the better, I would have to say.
Well, I think, yeah. As my old friend Yeshua said in Galilee, the truth will set you free.
Yeah. Now,
and it does indeed.
Are you comfortable with saying who you were in Galilee?
Well, apparently I was one of the guys that followed him around. I was the Greek. I was Philip, apparently. And the memories come pouring out, the reality of it. I was a successful, fairly wealthy Greek businessman. And the truth, the stories that have been told by the church for the last 2,000 years are so far off off the reality of it. The church, as you probably know, if you've done your own homework, is a political institution. And the story of Christianity and the history of the Christian tradition and all is pretty much what the church wanted you to know. And it has very little to do with the reality of what really happened back then. And the evidence is pretty clear, but you got to dig for it. And I refer people to a scholar who just passed away this last year, Lawrence Gardner, Sir Lawrence Gardner, who was a writer and a researcher in the United Kingdom. And I got to know him before he died, and he was one of the greatest scholars of our time, and he knew the pretty much truth of the origins of Christianity. And he wrote about, I think I have in his collection, I think 8 books that he wrote before he died. And the history of Christianity is pretty clear. And Lawrence Gardner laid it out pretty well.
Yeah.
But it's not anything what the church will teach you, you know?
Right.
Mm.
And that's why I have a lot of Christian friends. Some of them are fundamentalists, and once in a great while we get into a discussion, and I remind them of a few facts and some realities that they often don't like to look at. But the truth is truth, and when you find it, it will indeed set you free.
Yep. Are you familiar with John Lamb Lash's work?
I know the name, but I'm not familiar with the work, no.
Yeah, he did a fantastic book on religion. His name of the book is Not in His Name, or Not in His Image. Yeah, not in.
Yeah. I've got that on my list. I don't have the book, but I'd like to get it.
Yeah, it's a very good read. Very good read. It does basically. Well, I think he actually quotes Gardner in there, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he has done some fantastic work there on the origins of Christianity, the Gnostics, and all that stuff. So.
Well, Yeshua was a Gnostic himself.
Absolutely.
And in the first century, the few people that they called the first Christians were basically Gnostic. And I've always had a weak spot in my heart for them.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Tom. I was going to ask you. So, what was Yeshua's training? Because there's always that part that I remember in Catholic school. I used to always ask, between the age of 13 and 30, what was his training? Was he in India, as people say? Was he in Egypt?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about what I know and from what I remember and from my memories of actually being there. He was so much more than what the church would paint. He was probably one of the most educated men of the time. He spoke 6 languages fluently. He traveled extensively. He was born into a fairly wealthy family, and he had an uncle and a couple of cousins who were quite rich. Literally, they worked with the Romans, and they had a trading company, and they went and they brought tin back from Cornwall. There, the Mediterranean world, and that time this was during the height of the Roman Empire, literally. Augustus was on the throne when Yeshua was born, and he was born into a family of wealth and power. And when he was growing up, he had the best education, and he traveled extensively all over the Mediterranean world. He went with his uncle on some of the expeditions over to Cornwall to bring tin back, and his uncle, the one that comes down in history as Joseph of Arimathea, literally was a very wealthy man and had a contract with the Romans to bring tin back from Cornwall. So Yeshua grew up in a wealthy family, went to school, traveled extensively, and had one of the finest educations. And as I said, he spoke 6 languages fluently. And the church has tried to put out the crap that, he was born a simple carpenter and to a poor family and all yakety yak yak yak. And that has nothing to do with the reality of it. The history is there, and Gardner wrote most of this in his books. This is not uncommon knowledge. This information is pretty well known to people who are scholarly and really do their homework. But you don't find too many scholars in the church, I'm sorry to say.
Well, that's all. That's all to tell the masses that it's okay to be poor and to suffer, and it's okay. That's Jesus did it, so you can do it too, and be happy.
Yeah. One of the things that really ticked me off, as you guys know, I'm a retired military. I'm a retired command sergeant major, and I don't have a lot of patience with bullshit. And this garbage that the church puts out about him, never marrying, and good Lord, man, he was married and he had 3 children. And what is so interesting, the facts of the history is he was legitimately born into a wealthy family. And by the very nature of his mother and his father, he was a legitimate claimant to the throne of Judea. And through his mother, he not only was claimant to the crown of Judea, he was claimant to the priesthood, the high priest. So he was the first man in about 1,000 years that had been born by the nature of his family, not only into the priesthood, the high priest, but to the throne. And good God, no wonder the Sanhedrin was so damn scared to death and had to get rid of him.
Yeah, that puts a whole new light on that the sign they tacked over his head, the King of the Jews.
Oh yeah, it puts a whole new light. The Romans knew exactly who he was, but the Romans were trying to keep the peace. The Romans were interested in only 2 things: collecting taxes and keeping the peace.
Right.
And if you paid your taxes and behaved yourself, the Romans didn't bother you that much. As a matter of fact, Yeshua had a lot of good Roman friends, for God's sake. He was well educated, he traveled extensively, and he came from a wealthy family. And he moved in political circles. And the Romans rather liked him. There were a lot of Romans who used to come and visit with him all the time because they recognized him, and he was a tremendous scholar. And as I said, he spoke 6 languages fluently. And you don't get any of this garbage from the church. I mean, you don't get the truth from the church. All you do is get garbage.
Yeah.
Oh.
So a lot of my Christian friends, they've kind of written me off a long time ago.
Tell me about it.
I am a bit of an embarrassment to them, I'm afraid. Anyhow, I'm a student of history, guys. One of my majors in college years ago, when I was going through Indiana University as a boy, I had 2 majors. I majored in psychology and I majored in ancient history. So I love ancient history, and I think, it's the fact that I had a nagging, suspicious memory of previous lives, which is why I have been particularly attracted to ancient history, particularly the ancient history of the Mediterranean world.
Now, was that your first and only life there that you remember, or you had several in that
Oh,
region?
God. One of the first ones we came up with, I was a high priest in Ur. Probably about, 3,000 BC.
Where's Ur?
Well, it's an ancient city in Sumer.
Yeah, Sumerian.
Along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers there in modern Iraq. It was a country that was known as Sumer in the ancient world. And the Sumerians actually was the first Western civilization. And they were established literally by the Anunnaki. And I use that term in a generic sense.
Right.
You know, the Anunnaki is literally in a Sumerian word meaning those who came down from above. And it's all laid out pretty thoroughly in Zecharia Sitchin's work.
Yeah.
But ancient Sumer literally was the world's first major Western civilization. It was established primarily by the Anunnaki, who landed and built cities and developed a civilization there. And they literally genetically manipulated the human genome. But you got to get into Zechariah's work to really get into that. Are you familiar with Sitchin?
Oh yeah, I've got all his books.
I miss the old man. I got to know him fairly well before he died.
Yeah, well, he did he left his mark on the world for sure.
Oh, he did indeed.
I'm sure he's either back or will be back soon.
Well, you know, we all come and go. It's like Grand Central Station. If you don't mind the pun, you know, literally, it's heavy traffic, guys. We come and go all the time.
Yeah.
Coming into this world and incarnating on planet Earth is considered to be in the world on the other side one of the roughest and most difficult educations that you can go through. But if you can come and go through several lives on planet Earth, man, you're looked upon with high regard because, you know, planet Earth is one of the most difficult schools in the galaxy. And that's true. I mean, all you got to do is live on this damn planet for a few years and you know what I'm talking about.
I will have to agree with that one, yes.
So this is the planet of hard knocks? Hard knocks?
Well, it's not only hard knocks, it's a planet of bloodshed and misery and heartbreak. It literally is considered to be, by the spiritual intelligences from the other side, it literally is considered to be one of the roughest schools in the galaxy. When you come here and you go through several lives here, you're highly regarded. You know, I jokingly say they give you certificates for matriculating here on planet Earth. So when you incarnate, you do it voluntarily. Nobody grabs you and throws you screaming into this cauldron down here. Spiritually, you make a choice. You come because you want to come. You come because you want to learn. You come because you want to grow and evolve and develop. And you come and you go through pure hell down here sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you remember any of your incarnations in another planet, or this is the only one you remember?
Well, no, I've been on other planets. I've lived lives on other planets, but
can you do
last,
like a
you know, the last ones that I were able to come up with here were on this planet. And as I said, I was a priest in Ur, the ancient city of Ur in Mesopotamia. I was an Etruscan scholar and priest, 600 BC in north-central Italy. I was a Templar knight in the Middle East in the 12th century. And oh Lord, what else did I have? Well, several, but
Yeah.
but that one in Judea, that one in Galilee, that's the one that just literally, emotionally tore me apart.
Yeah.
Because as I said, you don't just remember those events; you literally relive them, and the emotional impact of it can actually be overwhelming.
Yeah. So, Bob, we're I'm going to segue off into a little different area here. We're going into an area of the galaxy of the universe right now. It seems like we are being bombarded with cosmic radiation and cosmic waves and magnetic waves and whatever you want to call them that are tangibly and practically visibly changing the consciousness of mankind right now. What's your take on what's going on? What's really happening?
Well, from what I've learned over the years, we literally are completing what the ancients used to refer to as the Great Year. The ancients considered that there was a 26,000-year cycle. Actually, 25,920. What it is 12 times 2,160 years. As you guys probably know, one of the astrological ages, and there are 12 of them in our current astrological calendar. Each age is 2,160 years. And 12 times 2,160 comes out to about 25,920. Well, we are completing a great year, that full 26,000-year cycle. We are ending up completing the 12th sign of the zodiac, the sign of Pisces, the one that I was born under. And we are literally reaching the end of the age of Pisces. And we're going to start a new astrological count. And that 26,000-year period involves our movement through the galaxy. And we're coming up to a period of time here where we're picking up incredible amounts of radiation from the center of the galaxy. And what it is doing, it is literally changing genetically the genome of the human species. And what it is doing, it is triggering genes that have been considered to be for some time. You probably heard the term junk genes.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, they've done research and they've been mapping the genome of the human species. And they came up with a bunch of genes that they didn't have any reason why they even existed. So they called them junk genes. Well, bullshit. They weren't junk genes. They're genes that have not been activated yet. Well, we are now in a process of moving through that edge part of the galaxy where that radiation we're getting from the center of the galaxy is going to activate those genes. And it's going to be turning the human race into a new species. And that's why it's so painful. That's why it's so awkward. That's why I call it, coming out of adolescence. And it's difficult times, guys. But look around the world, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Look what's happening with weather. The whole planet is going through a change, not just the fauna, not only the flora and the fauna, but the entire planet is undergoing change. And when this is all over with in another year, another century, we're going to be a new species.
Now,
And we're going to be going out into the stars, and we're going to be claiming our rightful place out there with our cousins. And it's going to be a new world and a new race and a new beginning.
for yourself, Bob, do you feel any physical changes that that you can definitely say, okay, I definitely feel that I'm changing physically from whatever is happening?
Oh, I've been going through so damn many changes in the last 30 years. Hell, I'm 82, guys.
Just
The old carcass is beginning to fall apart on me.
You still got what, another 50 years, right?
Oh, well, genetically, if I were to take better care of myself, I'd probably last another 100 years. But I've been living a fairly good life over the years. I'm an omnivorer. I like good steaks. I drink good bourbon, and I smoke good cigars. And when I was younger, I used to chase the ladies. Now, if I chased a lady and caught her, I wouldn't know what to do with her. But yeah, I've been going through some changes, and my relationship with my cousins and my good friends out there. If you guys have been watching some of the interviews I've been giving Carrie Cassidy, the last couple of interviews I laid out some pretty blunt stuff. I've had a personal relationship with non-human intelligence since I was 2.5 years old. I've been aboard their ships. I've met them. I've talked to them. They take me aboard from time to time. They took me with them one time for 6 weeks, for Christ's sake. And,
yeah, that would have been quite an experience, and then come back 5 minutes after you left. Wow.
Well, you must have seen the interview.
Yeah. Oh yes, I did.
Yeah.
That shook the hell out of me, to be honest with you guys. I told Carrie I went through 3 stages. I thought I think I'm beginning to lose my mind. And then the second stage was I was convinced I had lost my mind. And I'm now on stage 3, guys. I'm sane and the rest of the world is nuts.
There you go.
So I'm in stage 3 and I'm enjoying it. And I went through all kinds of changes,
So stage 4 is when the rest of the world wakes up and says, wow, that guy isn't crazy.
Well, stage 4 is when the people begin to start paying attention. And they realize that people like me are not just, speaking out of the side of their mouth.
Right.
There are people like me who are telling them the truth if they just shut up and pay attention. And I've been prodding, you'd be surprised. I'll be telling you, both of you. You would be surprised at the number of top military people, intelligence people, politicians, not only in the United States, but all over the planet, that have had personal relationships with non-human intelligence, but they've never had the courage to come out and speak out about it. Now, I promise, I kind of predict in the next year or two, hopefully, that you're going to find out a lot of people in high positions of politics and in the military will get the courage to speak out, come forward, and come out of the closet, as it were, as I did, and say, look, Dean is not just an old fool. He's telling you the truth, so pay attention, because it happened to me, too. My good friend over in Santa Fe, Neil Freer, wrote a white paper a couple of years ago where he laid it out pretty thoroughly that he'd had a relationship with non-human intelligence since he was 7 years old. So Neil went public with it, and I thought, well, I have a tremendous regard for him. So that's when I began to come out, and a year ago in Laughlin, I gave Carrie that interview. And in the last interview, the 4th interview, which is just last February here in Phoenix, I laid it all out pretty clearly, pretty bluntly, as you remember.
Yeah.
But other people will do this, I think, in time. I think you're going to find a few politicians. It's already happening in Europe. I think a couple of politicians in Georgia, what used to be the old Soviet Union, a couple of other places, have come out and said that they've had a personal relationship, and they've met some of the guys from out there.
Actually, the ex-prime minister
His wife,
wife,
right? Yeah.
his wife was talking about how um, she was in contact with them, and they were just making fun of.
Japan's ex prime minister's wife, right?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I read something about that. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
and
you're going to see more. You're going to see more and more of that, guys. And I think people like me and Neil Freer, we're coming out, opening the door, as it were, and making it possible and acceptable for other people to step forward.
Right, right.
If I had said some of these things 30, 40 years ago, when I was in the military or when I was working for FEMA, oh, good God, I would have lost my job, and they probably would have put me in a mental institution.
Right.
But now I can get away with it, and now I'm having frankly, a good time. I'm being honest and candid and open, and I'm telling the facts, I'm telling the truth, and I rather enjoy it.
It's kind of refreshing to be able to open up and speak what's on your mind instead of have to walk around on eggshells with people and I can't talk about that because they'll all poo-poo me and
Yeah, I know. Well, it's like the old religious concept, confession is good for the soul.
yep, yep, yep. It definitely
But it
feels
really
good.
is. It really is. It really is. No pun intended.
Bob, can we go a little bit into the beginning, the story when you were, I believe it was 2 or 3 years old? The experience
Oh,
you
my.
had.
Yeah, well, I laid that out with Carrie during the third interview up in Laughlin over a year ago. And when I was a little tyke, I was an only child, and I was a Pisces, and I loved being near the water. And my dad was a railroader, and back when I was a little tyke, as you know, I was born in 1929, grew up during the Depression. I was living in Covington, Kentucky, and we had a little house just down the street, about a block away from a large industrial canal. And this canal had been dredged to carry ore barges and slag from a foundry. And I used to go down there, just a little tight, go down in my little jumper play suit, go down, and I'd throw pieces of wood into the canal. And then I would throw pebbles at the pieces of wood. And one day I tumbled into the canal, 40 feet down, steep sides, into the water, and I was by myself. And I proceeded to start drowning, literally. I was splashing around down there, grasping, trying to get a hold on the side of the dredged canal. And it was just kind of slippery and muddy, and I couldn't get a hold of it. And I was just a tyke, just 2.5, close maybe to 3 years old. And I remember vividly the incident as it was transpiring, because I literally thought in my little 2.5, 3-year-old mind that this had been a short trip. And here I was, splashing around, and the side of the canal was getting smeared, muddy, slippery. I couldn't get a hold of it, and it was rather steep. And I was getting ready to drown, literally. And about that time, a powerful pair of hands grasped me from behind and lifted me up 40 feet out of that industrial canal and put me up on the side of the canal at the top, 40 feet up, on the edge where I had tumbled from. And I vividly remember, it was like yesterday. I looked behind me, there was nobody there. I was alone. But I had this feeling, this vivid feeling of two large, powerful hands grasping me under my arms and lifting me up, smeared with mud, out of this canal and putting me up 40 feet on the edge. And I looked around, and of course there was nobody there. And in my little child's mind, I thought, oh boy. But then I was overwhelmed by the reality of the deep doo-doo that I was going to be in, because my mother was going to see my little play suit all smeared with mud and I'm soaking wet. And she's going to know that I violated her rules and I went down there when I shouldn't have. And the fear of punishment overwhelmed me, and I toddled back home, and I got just exactly what I expected. And I didn't really think about the event itself until later. Much later. And
that's
as
what I was going to ask
Carrie,
you.
during the interview, I told Carrie, I said, when I was in the military and my life was saved in Korea, I guess 4 or 5 times. My life was saved in Vietnam 3 or 4 times. I was in situations where I should have died and I didn't. And guys, I began to remember and I began to put 2 and 2 together, and it began to dawn on me that I have been looked after and protected for most of my life. And it's like, you go on about your life and you hesitate to take some of these bits and pieces and put them together. But in the last 20 years, I've been doing a lot of that. And I've been putting it all together, and it's turned out to be a picture that I can't avoid anymore. I've been looked after, I've been protected, I've been taken care of. My life was saved in Korea and Vietnam time and time and time again. And after I went through that hypnotic past life regression, some more of the bits and pieces began to come together. And it dawned on me that I've come with a purpose, I have a meaning, and I'm here to do a few things before I leave. And that's what I've been doing now for the last 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel comfortable about it. I really do feel that I'm making a bit of a difference. As I told Carrie on that last interview here just in February, for the first time, it's been clear to me that why I came. And I'm going to be here at least for another couple of years, I think, because I'm not finished yet.
Yeah. If I see a lot of people that there's a kind of a fuzzy line between UFO and angelic intervention. What a lot of people are say back in 2,000 years ago, all this intervention of any kind would have been called angelic. Angels came and saved me instead of our cosmic brothers or UFOs or whatever, however people want to term it. They would have labeled them as a supernatural being versus our cosmic neighbors.
Well, looking back 2,000 years, our ancient ancestors looked upon these guys as gods, literally.
Right.
They deified them. Every major religion on the planet has its origin with advanced extraterrestrial intervention. And I've said this repeatedly, and some of my fundamentalist friends take me to task for it, but every major religion on this planet was initiated and orchestrated by advanced extraterrestrial intelligence. And yes, our ancestors looked upon them as gods or angels. and because of the technology that they demonstrated repeatedly, that since our ancestors couldn't grasp and couldn't understand, they called them gods or angels. But we're having a relationship with the same entities, the same creatures, the same cousins of ours today, and they're not angels and they're not gods. They're advanced intelligences from other places.
Right.
Now, I will tell you guys that there are advanced intelligences out there that literally, in our concept, would be considered to be angelic. I mean, the top of the hierarchy is spiritual. There is an incredible hierarchy of power and intelligence in the universe. And at the very highest level of it, they are predominantly spiritual. And I guess it's not improper to consider them literally angelic.
Right.
But that's a long way from God. Now, there is a God. There is an ultimate source. That there is a cause. There is a beginning. There is a conscious intelligence, literally, that permeates the universe. And this conscious intelligence is benign, loving, caring, creative, and predominantly loving. But that is God. That is what I consider to be God. But there are a lot of advanced intelligences below that level that we might consider angelic, and with the very nature of their technology that we might consider them to be godlike. One of the interesting things I have learned that some of them literally damn near appear to be halfway, practically immortal. They've genetically manipulated their own genome to the point that literally they don't die. Now, you look at those guys.
Yeah.
And you can understand why our ancestors would think of them as either angels or gods.
That brings me to one particular person or being in particular from the old Bible, Mr. Jehovah, who I feel has
Jehovah,
done
that's another
so
piece
much
of history.
damage.
Well, Jehovah is another piece of history that's been screwed up completely. Well, Yahweh, which is where the word Jehovah comes from, was not a name initially. It was a title. It was an Anunnaki title for one of their lords. And there were several Yahwehs. There were a couple of them that were pretty decent guys. And there was a Yahweh or two that were not so damn decent. There was one Yahweh, for God's sake, that literally I would consider to be a psychopath.
That's what I was thinking.
most of the Jewish tradition that developed into the Christian tradition have got this character they call Yahweh or Jehovah, and that's not a name at all. It's a title. And there were several Yahwehs, but most Christians have not. They're not very scholarly, and they haven't done their homework. But there are so damn many things to be unlearned, guys.
Yeah.
Before we start addressing the truth, as difficult as it's going to be, we're going to have to get rid of all the bullshit and so all of the crap that has been heaped upon us over the centuries by the politicians in the church who were interested in power for themselves.
Right.
I think in the 3rd century, in the 4th century, Well, with Constantine, it became politically primarily. And it's gone downhill ever since.
Right. Council of Nicaea.
So, Tom, we're coming up upon the hour. We're going to take...
Yeah, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back into the archives and talk some more with Bob. So, Bob, I know you've got what's your tour look like this summer? You're speaking at a few places.
Well, I accepted the invitation from James to come up at the end of June. I don't still have a permanent date on it yet. I guess, somewhere in the last week of June, I'll be going up there.
It's the 24th, 25th, and 26th, I think, are the actual dates.
Okay, good.
24th through the 27th are the actual dates. 24th is a Friday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, most people are getting there probably Thursday. Me and Tom will be there the 22nd. And
yeah.
We'll be there till the 29th, helping James out.
Well, good. I'll be looking forward to seeing you guys up there.
Yeah.
I've got a speaking engagement in California. Carrie Cassidy and Bill Ryan are putting on their second conference program out there.
Oh, nice. I'm glad to see they're working together.
September. I don't know the dates, but it's toward the end of September, I think.
Cool.
And then I've accepted an invitation to speak at a big MUFON conference in Philadelphia in October. And then I was recently invited by Michael Tellinger to come and speak in South Africa in November.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we just had him on the show last week.
Well, Tellinger is a brilliant man. He is a hell of a nice guy. I like him. I like him a lot. And he invited me to a big conference in South Africa in November.
Well, that'll be a fun trip.
Well, it will be. It's a long trip, but I told him if he can come up with a business class ticket for me, I'll be there.
There you go.
But after my awkward experience coming back from Barcelona 2 years ago, I won't travel cabin class anymore. I just can't do it, guys. My age and, I have a couple of medical problems. And just to put it bluntly, I can't stand in line to pee anymore. So, if you can't get me a business class ticket, I'm afraid I'll have to turn you down. But we'll see.
I don't blame you. I've flown those long hours in coach, and
listen.
No matter what kind of condition you're in, it's hard.
I've been to Australia a couple of times, and I went down to Brazil once, and I was in Japan several years ago, and those long flights, man, I could do. When I was younger, I could do it, but I really can't do that anymore, and. It's not that I've become snobbish. I simply cannot put up with the limitations of standing in line, for God's sake.
Yeah.
My mother feels the same way. She won't come visit us unless we can get her a business class ticket. So.
No, I can understand that.
All right.
So, okay. Well, join us over in the archive section, guys. Let's see, condemnation without investigation, the height of ignorance, the 100th monkeyradio.com.
And that is, the 100monkeyradio.com.
Okay. All right, we'll see you in the archives.
It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up. If you miss it, then press rewind. It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up. If you miss it, then press rewind. Time to make you free your mind. Wake up. If you miss it, then press rewind. It's the right time to make you free your mind. Wake up. It's the right time to make
welcome to the archive section with Tom and Ramon and Bob Dean. You are listening to the 100th Monkey Radio. So, Ramon, you had something you wanted to get into with Bob?
Yes, Bob. There's something you mentioned on the interview with Kerry Cassidy, which is your 6 weeks with our cousins, with the Space Brothers. I really want to find out more. What were those 6 weeks like, if that's possible to talk about?
Well, I'll do what I can. As I told Kerry, it's difficult for me to come to terms with, because I literally was gone 6 weeks, and they took me somewhere. I don't know whether it was a city, whether it was a planet, whether it was another dimension, but it was a lovely place to be, and they fed me well, and they showed me around, and I found that they were as fascinated by me as I was fascinated by them. And they looked basically like, you and I. I mean, they were basically human. As I said to Kerry, though, they have an uncomfortable way of looking at you. When they look at you, they look directly at you. And they lock their eyes on you when they're talking to you, and they literally look right through you. It's almost like they're reading you like a book. And we humans find that kind of direct looking at each other as, traditionally we humans look upon it as a threat. But when they do it, you don't feel threatened, but it is most uncomfortable.
Right.
Is this kind of the look that you would get from your dad when he's trying to find out the truth?
No. It's a look that's a combination of affection, and they can communicate so much with just a look. And I'm convinced that there's a telepathic level to it, because they look right into your eyes, and I know they're reading you like a book. They literally are reading every thought you've got.
So
but I found it kind of, listen, being in their presence, you overwhelmed by the awareness and the reality of the power that they have. They individually manifest a feeling, a sense of tremendous power. And it's a little disconcerting, particularly the way they look directly into your eyes.
Did they?
But anyhow, they treated me well. They fed me well. Anything I asked to eat, they provided. I'm an omnivore. I love to eat. I eat
and
meat.
Potatoes.
Yeah, well, as
Steak
I
and
told
potatoes,
Terry, bacon and eggs and potatoes and steak and
I'm
pork chops and all.
I'm
all
a
good
black and
stuff.
blue guy.
Anyhow, I was treated well, but the thing that was the most impressive of all was that there were no fire departments, there were no police departments, and the other thing that I found disconcerting is that I didn't see any children. But I was impressed by the libraries, particularly the libraries, and the lecture halls, and the administrative centers, from what I could gather. And as I said, I was treated well. I was treated incredibly well.
What was the architecture like?
Well, there were no high-rises. Everything was kind of, low level. I got the impression several times that most of the facilities were underground. But the buildings, streets, promenades, gardens, parks, absolutely impressive. But I think the thing that made them impact with me the most was I guess the library. The library was kind of a combination of books, records, technology. I told Carrie on the interview, you could access apparently every event in human history because it's all recorded there. And I was impressed by that. I asked a lot of questions and generally got very open-minded answers, but the point is that the shock was when I came home. The idea, you know, from what I had seen and the way I had been living and the feeling of peace and contentment that I felt in coming back into this world, I think that's the thing that killed a little boy from Papua New Guinea. I don't know if you heard the story of Billy Doo, but
right.
I think it was coming back, the shock that overwhelmed him. I mean, it literally was the same thing with me. No, I found it it was impressive experience, but that's only one factor. That as I said, I've been on the board ships many times, and I've met them. They've come to conferences. I've had them come up to me and introduce themselves, and I will tell you flatly that you've probably run into one or two of them yourselves over the years.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that in the least.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that either. We've been trying to get one on the show to do an interview.
Yeah.
That's like our dream.
Well, one of my good friends was at the conference here in Phoenix, and Cookie asked me, she says, if you see one, you have to introduce me. And I said, I don't think I can do that, honey, because I think that would be a violation of my protocol, as it were, you know.
Yeah.
They don't particularly want to stand out. Matter of fact, they go out of their way to blend in, and they blend in quite well.
Now, have you been dealing with one particular race or several? Because
it's difficult to tell. I have. Let me tell you something. There are humanoids out there that come here regularly that cannot move in our midst and sit down with us and have dinner in restaurants or on an airplane or because they're humanoid, but they look so different. They really do. They're not able to pass in our midst. But on the ones that do move with us, among us, there are at least 2 or 3 different groups. And there are subtle differences. The one group is quite tall, and they're looked upon described by a lot of people as Nordics because they're fair. They're very tall. They have blonde hair, blue eyes, and red hair, green eyes, and they can move in our midst, but they're very distinctive. There are others, and I swear, I honest to God, really do think that they're almost as human as we are, because, humans are supposed to be, what do they call them, Homo sapiens sapiens?
Right.
Yes.
Well, I'm convinced that some of these guys are Homo sapiens sapiens sapiens, They're pretty much like us. They're the same genome, literally, but they're a couple of points above. I mean, they've evolved longer, and apparently they products of more advanced genetic manipulation. Yeah. But they're in our midst.
There
are several different groups from several different places. The last I heard, which I got from a source which I consider quite authoritative, is that there are at least 12 different groups coming here regularly. There could be 100 different groups out there, There's probably an infinite number of life forms out there, literally.
Right. So have you run across any of the what are they called, the luminous light body type beings?
Yeah, that's happened to me, and that is almost an overwhelming experience. It literally is. That's the ones I think you would describe as angelic.
Right.
Yeah, there's an impact and a power in their presence that is literally almost overwhelming. And for people who've had that experience, it's no wonder. I don't doubt for a moment why they consider them angelic. Because there's a power of their presence that literally is almost overwhelming.
Well, you spoke of the hierarchy. I kind of, in my mind's eye, I see that as a higher level of evolution of the human species, of the soul, where they no longer need utilize the technology to transport. You know, they wrap their Merkaba about them and zoom off through the universe type thing.
Well, it's not merely their technology. Their technology is beyond our wildest dreams, literally. But it's beyond that. Some of these races have evolved spiritually to such a point.
Right, that's my point, yeah.
And you made your point well. They literally have evolved spiritually to the point where they literally don't need their technology anymore. They have a power with them, and Yeshua had that. Of course, he was a phenomenon all to himself. He came down from the highest level of the hierarchy to incarnate on this planet, to participate in that process and that program and that entire scripted series of events. And he came down, he voluntarily came down from the highest level. And my God, when you think the price he paid, what that cost him to come down here to this little chicken patch and go through what he went through.
It definitely would take some serious nerve to step into the shoes of a human being with your eyes open, knowing what's in front of you.
Oh, I'll tell you something. That entire series of events in Galilee 2,000 years ago was orchestrated, initiated and orchestrated with a particular purpose.
Right.
And the primary motive of the whole damn thing was love.
Yeah.
The love that he felt to do what he did and to pay the price that he paid, just to give the human species some kind of an idea of who they are, what they are, and why they're here.
Yeah.
God, the price he paid.
Yeah.
And there was no other motive other than love. And that's something I learned, that's the bottom line. That's the most important power in the universe.
Be your brother's keeper.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he
do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Exactly.
And what you sow, you reap.
Yeah.
And what was it he told us? Down to the last jot and tittle. Took me a couple of years to figure out what the hell a jot and a tittle was.
Actually, I was just about to ask you what that was, because I
finally found out that a jot is that little accent mark that they put over certain Hebrew letters.
Oh.
And the tittle is a little tiny coin that's about 1/10 of a shekel. And when you consider that, when he said that karma, literally, and that's the point he made, what you sow, you reap. Down to the last jot and tittle. And your behavior in this life toward other humans, you pay that price. Apparently, from the source of divine creation, there is indeed a cosmic law, which the Hindus call karma. That you do indeed reap what you sow. And as Yeshua said, down to the last jot and tittle. And the people grasped that and paid attention to that. And accepted the responsibility for their own behavior. My God, what a wonderful world this would be, huh?
Yes, yes.
But then it wouldn't be the rough, bloody schoolroom that it is.
Well, I think we're getting there. I honestly think we're getting there. I mean, there's
more.
more.
If I didn't believe that myself, if I didn't really believe that also, I want the hell out of here. If I didn't believe that, I'd say screw it. I'm out of here. Screw you guys. Go on out your vicious business and do what you have to do and beat the shit out of each other and wage your wars. But I do believe there is a purpose and there is a meaning and we're making some progress. The human species is making some progress.
Yeah, especially in the last couple of years. I've just almost daily I just look out and I go, wow, things are changing so fast. People are waking up so fast. I mean, and there's still, we're still dealing with a lot of the negativity out there, and the media, the corporate, run media, and all the bullshit out there, right? But then I look out and I see these 20-year-old kids coming over to my house every week just to talk about life, talk about spirituality, talk about consciousness, and I'm flabbergasted that these kids are they're taking their own time out to go learn stuff, go explore things that are above and beyond the third dimensional mundane aspect of life that society is trying to push on them constantly.
Listen, there is indeed an expansion of consciousness taking place. I've noticed it, and I'm gratified by it. There is an expansion of human consciousness, which I think is probably going to save our ass. Literally, we're going to pull through this, and we're going to make it.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling hopeful about it. Over the years, and the wars that I've been in, and experiences I've had, I get a little cynical sometimes, and I think, oh, screw it,
Yeah.
The human mob, they're not worth saving. Screw them. Let them destroy themselves. They're not worth saving. But
I think we've all gone through that, Bob.
I'm sure we have.
Yeah.
I'm sure we have. But I'm to a point in my life, I guess, the fact that I've gotten older, that I really do see some progress being made, and I see an expansion, a growth of human consciousness, and I feel hopeful about it.
Some of the aliens that you've met, I'm sure, have they been like a lot older than yourself?
Well, that's another interesting factor, that I've seldom seen very old ones. Now, while I was on this trip, when I was with them for 6 weeks, yeah, I did see a few elderly gentlemen look like they didn't look old like we do, like I do right now, like I'm feeling. When you get older, you tend to bend over a little bit, and you don't move quite as fast, and I carry a cane, for example, and my knees have given out on me, and my shoulders have given me some problems, and I've had some lower back problems and all the rest of that garbage. So when you get to be my age on the planet here, you begin to look your age, literally. But I've seen some of them that were looked like they were very old, but they were just as vigorous as I was when I was in my 40s.
And did you ever ask any of them how old were they?
No, I didn't. I thought that, I asked a lot of questions, but I figured that was a little too personal. I I found, as I said to you, that they were as interested in me as I was in them. And, you know, I found out later that we humans are quite unique. That's something that most humans just simply don't grasp. We are a unique species.
So
Apparently, we have a very unique genome. It's a collection. It's a coming together of genetic traits of, I guess, half a dozen different extraterrestrial races. And so the human genome is literally quite unique. It's almost like our fingerprints, you know, and they say that no human being on the planet has exactly the same fingerprints. And what's the old joke about, you know, there's no snowflake the same?
Right.
yeah.
But humans apparently are unique, which is why they're fascinated by us. And our genome is quite unusual, apparently, which is why a lot of them feel it's important to help us make this transition. They'd like to see us survive.
Now, something just came into my mind. Do you think that one of the reasons why they would like to see us advance is because themselves would maybe one day like to wear this same outfit? This human outfit?
They'd like to see us what?
A lot of them would like to see us advance, and I'm wondering if one of the reasons is because themselves, since they know reincarnation exists, they can just reincarnate as a human being if we get to the point where we become more advanced. Do you think that might be one of the reasons?
Some of them do incarnate here. And that's one of the other things that I've learned, which is a fact. Some very advanced spiritual beings, ancient, advanced beings, incarnate here. Look at Yeshua himself.
Yeah.
One of the most advanced spiritual beings in the entire universe. Decided and came down and incarnated into a human form. So there are advanced creatures who do incarnate here. You know, I've had many lives on this planet, and I've had several on other planets. So you can incarnate. Incredibly advanced creatures incarnate here. Some of our great, well, what do they call them in the church? Saintly figures? Are incredibly advanced spirits that incarnate on this planet in human form. So that's why when you look at a human being, you never quite know what you're looking at.
Right.
You know? It's like the old pitiful garbage, the crap about, you know, racism and religion and all that. You know, incredibly advanced creatures incarnate into black bodies, yellow bodies. Some of our great kings and great spiritual leaders. I'm convinced Gandhi was an advanced creature, an advanced soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. To do what he did, you kind of have to be.
And there's another one that I never had the opportunity to meet, but that was Yogananda. I've always admired and respected him because he tried to teach us one of the basic rules we need to learn, and that is to know ourselves.
Yeah.
He called it self-realization. He created a self-realization fellowship.
The one I always wanted to meet was Sai Baba.
Yeah, I was told that he was quite an advanced creature as well. So you have souls incarnating from all over the galaxy, literally, or from the universe, into human form. So when you're walking the streets out there, you really don't know who the hell you're looking at. So it behooves you, I think, to treat other humans like you would like them to treat you.
Exactly.
So was it Yeshua said one time? He said, "You will have angels coming to your door unaware." So try to be patient, loving, and caring with all your fellow human beings, because you never know who's in that body. Well, it's a good lesson to learn. I've tried to live it myself.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree 150% with that. I recently, like I said in last week's show, I asked a little girl because I was curious, and I asked her. I said, "Do you remember your past life?" And she's about 5 years old, and she said, "Uh-huh." And then I said, "Do you remember what your name was?" And she goes, "No." And I said, "Do you remember what you looked like?" She goes, "Yeah, I had a rainbow body." And Bob, I was so flabbergasted when this little girl said that to me. I had to put myself back together really quick because I didn't want to shock her.
Well, I understand what you're telling me here. When you can get them young like that, before they have forgotten, before they've been taught to forget, they sometimes do remember. I remember that I remembered vividly until I was about 3 or 4, when I went through that experience of falling into that canal and damn near drowning. I was quite aware of what was happening at that moment. And as I said, I thought, well, this is a short trip. And then when I realized that some unseen entity had lifted me up and plucked me out of that canal, put me back on the bank, it didn't overwhelm me. I didn't get hysterical or anything. It just, kind of passed like, well, I expected that, I guess.
Right.
But when you get 5, 6, or 8, and then getting on toward 10 and 12, you get so immersed in this world that you're living in, you tend to forget who you are, where you came from, and why you're here. And that's why a hypnotic past life regression can be a very helpful experience if you're emotionally up to it. But I tell you, you got to give it some thought, because some of the emotion that floods into you, you're not just remembering, you're literally reliving.
Yeah,
you better be prepared for it, and because it is an overwhelming emotional experience.
Yeah, I think I'm prepared for it, but now I'm trying to find a reputable hypnotist and the money to do it. So.
Yeah. Well, choose with care. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I definitely want to have. I want to have somebody who knows what they're doing. So.
Yeah.
But listen, I'll tell you something else, and this is from my own experience. You can do it yourself if you really want to concentrate and meditate and focus. You'd be surprised what you can come up with.
Oh yeah, I've done that. And I do that on a fairly regular basis, and I just like almost like a third party involved in it too, to take some of the I can't even say the word.
Incredulous. Yes.
There you go. I like to take some of that out of it for me, because wow, some pretty wild stuff.
Well, it's all in there, as I've told people repeatedly. At this moment, literally at this particular moment in time, you are the sum total of every life that you have ever lived.
Yep.
And that means all the good stuff as well as all the bad stuff.
Yep.
Now, our doctors and our sociologists and psychologists, they know that when you're walking around here as a human being, you are a product of your childhood and your adolescence and your growing up and all that. But they don't grasp that beyond that you are the sum total of every life that you have ever lived, ever. It's all in there. And, you know, what you heard the old joke about by the time you're 50, you've had the face you deserve? I don't know whether you heard that or not.
No, I've never heard that.
That's an old thing, you know. Because I'm an old sayer, so I can say old like that.
By the time you're 50, you got the face you deserve.
That's what they say. That's what my grandfather said, you know. And there's a lot of truth there.
Well, I've got another 5 months.
Well, when you really stop to think about it, at this particular moment in time, you're the sum total, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, of every life you have ever lived. And that includes the good stuff as well as all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
So whatever you've got and whatever you're carrying with you is everything. It's what you've earned. Listen, Tom, I find that I'm getting kind of hoarse and my voice is beginning to go on me here. I'm going to have to call it an evening and wish you guys well and thank you for your thoughts and your comments and your questions.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for joining us, and we can't wait to meet you at James Gilliland's ranch in June. It'll be interesting.
Well, I'll be looking forward to it, guys. And you know me, we can hoist a cool one together.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll probably be doing parking that day, so we'll probably be one of the first faces you'll see.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, what kind of a crowd are you expecting up there?
There'll be 300 or 400 people there and probably majority of those will be camping right there on the ranch. So,
really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The campground there gets quite full. Last year, what'd you say, Ramon? 250 people camped last year? Something?
Yeah, around. There was like 300 people in the conference and about 250 camped. I mean, all the hotels are booked up around the area. Well,
James has been after me for some time to come up there.
Well, you'll love it. You'll love it.
You're not going to regret it.
Will I be provided a room with a little bath?
I'm sure he's taking care of you. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Well, I was just wondering, because of my age and a couple of physical limitations, when I travel, I generally try to get into a decent motel that's got a decent room and a private bath.
Right. Well, if he doesn't have a motel already set up for you right down the road, then I don't know if he put you in the main house or what. I'm not sure what his.
Yeah.
Is there a little town right down the road there?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll get in contact with Pam and I'll have her call you so you can so you guys can run down and make sure that what you need is provided.
Well, all I need is a bedroom and a private bath because as I said, my age and a couple of my limitations, I do insist on a private bath.
Well, I have no doubt that everything will be taken care of to your satisfaction for sure.
Yeah.
Well, another question while I got you here. What's chow like? They're not all vegetarians, are they?
Oh, no.
No. Bob, that's funny because my first time up there, it was the same thing I thought. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go vegetarian for these couple of days. And when I got there, no, it's not. If it's the same caterers from last year, they did an amazing job.
Yeah, they have some good food.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's not a bunch of like stardust and hippies, singing Kumbaya. But it is definitely a place where everybody's very open with each other, talking. Like people just tell you their experience, and it's normal there. It's the one place where you actually feel normal. You can talk about anything.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you guys there.
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
you take care of yourself now.
All right,
All right,
Bob.
Bob. Have a great evening.
Okay, guys.
Good night.
See you later.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight with Bob Dean. Great conversation. And I know, Ramon, you'll reflect this too. I can't wait to meet him.
Yeah.
And we'll see if we can't get some stuff on video with him during the conference, and we'll get it posted here on the website too. Yeah, good stuff. Before we get off here, we were talking about reincarnation quite a bit through that, Ramon. So I thought maybe I would
I was wondering
talk about that dream.
I was wondering if you want to go there, because I actually was
Yeah.
going to mention it, but then I was like, I don't know if he wants to go there. So.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I'm going to go there.
Let's go there then.
Let's go there. Yeah. So last week, this was, oh, geez, let's see. Today is Monday. This was probably I think it was last Thursday night. I woke up and I don't dream, I don't recall my dreams very often. And when I do, they are normally doozies. So I woke up and it was like my jaw just dropped when I woke up, because it was one of those more than a dream dreams. And I found myself I was observing this woman, and I was watching her, and then next thing I knew, I had sex with this woman, and I impregnated her, made her pregnant. And I knew while I was watching her exactly what was going on and what I was doing. As soon as she was pregnant, I knew that in 9 months I was going to be incarnated into that child that I had just fathered. So I got the impression that I was previewing the mother that I was going to have, and kind of like checking things out. I was making sure that this is the one I want to go in, et cetera, et cetera. But I also knew that in 9 months I was no longer going to be in the body that I was in at the time. So it was like I'm my own father. It was just kind of it was. Oh boy, a psychologist could have all sorts of fun with that dream,
For me, that's a new thing where, you know how they always say you've been everything, and that's a new one for me.
Yeah. I'd never even contemplated that before. That sort of scenario.
I'm not gonna mention she's a listener, and we've met her up at the ranch, but I'm not gonna mention her name because I don't really have permission. But she, I remember one time she mentioned that me and my wife, we've known each other a few lifetimes, and this is the first time that we're married. In the previous ones, we were related, and I was like, "Oh, don't tell me those things."
Oh, you're my sister. Oh. But yeah, well, I just thought I'd throw that dream out there before we got off here tonight.
See, that's what throws me off, Tom, is whether I've had dreams like that where it feels like a past life, but I don't really know, is it, or is it something deeper that, I'm trying to figure out. For example,
No, this one was a real event. This was an event that happened. Either happened or is going to happen. So time trying to sequence the time was a bit slippery for me to grasp onto. It almost felt like a memory. So it almost felt like I was previewing the life that I'm living right now, and I impregnated my mother. And here's a funny story. Well, it's not a funny story, but here is a. Now I can't verify this through. I haven't really touched this with either of my parents to question this, and I don't know what kind of answers I would get. But my mother, before she met my quote unquote father, which they were only married for 3 years, so before she met my father, she had been going out with this guy by the name of Tom. And shortly before, I mean, and this is where I have to do some investigation and ask my mother about some dates, when this happened. But this guy, he was at a lake in South Dakota. They were at a lake in South Dakota, and he dove off this rock, and he hit some rocks in the water and died. So he smashed his head on the rocks, and he left. So, and then it was very shortly after that, and this is where I need to do some questioning and find out whether or not there's a possibility that my what I have known as my father all these years is truly my father, or does the time frame kind of fit something else? So I got it, and then I would just happen to be named Tom after this guy. So it really throws some questions in my mind on whether or not that was me in a past life that actually dove off the cliff and smashed my head on the rocks shortly after getting this beautiful young woman pregnant, you know.
Yeah. Do you have any fear of diving?
I can't do a front flip. I can do back flips all day long, but I cannot do a front flip for the life of me. I mean, and most people are just the opposite. They can do front flips off diving boards, you know, and stuff like that. But they can't do the back flips. But me, I'm just the I can do back flips all day long. I mean, but I cannot seem to throw myself forward and get the flip going that direction. Every time I've tried, and it's only been off the low diving board type thing when I've tried to do it, but I've always ended up, you know, hitting the water in a very awkward position, either just a flat out belly flop or you know, landing on my back or some stupid thing, you know. But so, you know, I don't know if there's something tied in there or not, but
maybe you should start with exactly how he died. Was it during a front flip kind of event?
Yeah, that'd be a good one to question. I want to check out the time frame first. See if the time frame fits between I don't know the date that my mother and father were married, so I don't know what that exact date was. So I think that would be my first question, and find out if that fits.
Yeah.
You know, because if they got married, 8 months before I was born, then that throws a big red flag up to me and says, well, there's a possibility here.
Yeah.
That's where I need to start my investigation. So
I
wonder if you can look up marriage records.
You can, actually. Don't ask me how, but I know you can. You definitely can look it up. You just need to find out what state they were married in.
Yeah, I know where they were married and all that stuff. So
yeah,
maybe I'll do some of that investigation. So, anyways, if I come up with anything there, I will let everybody know.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one dream, which I believe is a past life, and I was so maybe a listener out there can clarify it for me. It was during the Crusades, and I knew it was the Crusades, and I was fighting. I can't remember who I was fighting exactly, but I was on a horse, and I was wearing all red armor, and on the side of my leg, on my right side of the leg, I know I had like this armor protection, kind of protecting my leg and the side of the horse, and the horse also had red armor. And I remember riding through these crowds and just hacking at people. And let me tell you, Tom, it was so disturbing when I woke up. It was so disturbing that for a couple of days I was really disturbed by this dream, because seeing exactly what I was doing was so vivid and so clear that, and knowing where I was at exactly too.
Well, we lived those lives, Ramon.
Yeah,
We've been the evilest person on the earth, and we've been the best person on the earth. I mean, to be able to, at least that's the way I see it, to be able to truly have a well-rounded and knowledgeable soul and being, you have to have those experiences. You have to experience being the bad guy, you know, so you understand what the good guy is about. You know, you have to experience the both sides of the coin to understand that it's a coin, you know.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure that we've, you know, done the most brutal things imaginable, and on the other side of it, done the most loving things imaginable. So. Yeah, that's one of the, I suppose that's one of the nice things about the soul block that we have when we're born into this world. You know, the memory block that we have. Can you imagine how difficult it would be, especially right after a life where you were brutal and you know, you hacked people up, or you were the victim of something like that, or you know, can you imagine being born with that immediate memory and having to deal with that in your life?
Yeah.
I mean, if all those memories were bled through the reincarnation process, it'd be a very challenging thing to deal with. I mean,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I think that's why I myself have been trying to get past life regression, and I feel like there's always a block comes up whenever I'm trying. The last time I tried was I was still living in New York, and I was gonna go see a woman, and she was in the 50s, and I had the money all set up, and I said, can we do it this week? Because I have the money, and you know. And she's like, oh, no, it doesn't work that way. I have to schedule you in. I have an opening in 1 month. And I was like, oh, man. I know that money's going to... Yeah, I'm not going to hold on to those $450 for 1 month. And exactly what happened. So I had to spend the money on something else, and it was gone, and I had to cancel.
Yeah. Try to use those CDs, those ones we got from Peggy Nichols. Which, Peggy Nichols is somebody that we're going to be having on the show here next month. I believe the end of June we've got her scheduled for, right?
Yeah, since we got this last moment, let's go over really quickly who we got coming up. The next week we got our very first guest coming back. And of course, that's James Gilliland.
Is that next week?
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. It's June, almost June already. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's 1 month before you have to come pick me up at the airport.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, we have James coming up, and we'll definitely get into the reincarnation stuff. Then after that, we have our favorite coming back, which is
Crystal Clark.
And then we have somebody who is very special. I mean, everybody's special, but Sifu Jenny Lam, which if you don't know who she is, just click on her picture and find out. she's been a martial artist since I think she was 6 years old or something like that. But her internal work is just off the chart. Then we have Peggy Nichols and Sherry Ann Cortland.
Yeah, Peggy's the one I was just mentioning about. She's got some audio CDs where she walks you through regression and chakra cleansing. So we're going to have her on the show, and we're going to actually break down and talk about chakras, and for the first hour we're going to talk about chakras and what they are, what their aspects are, what they do. Basically learn what chakras are, because most people have heard what the chakras, and they understand, okay, well, there's 7 and they have these colors and blah. Most people don't really know, and I'm I'll throw my hand up. I'm guilty of not really understanding them as well as I probably should. So I will learn something through that show too myself, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we all will.
Yeah, and then
you can never learn enough.
Yeah, then we're going to go into her past life regression CDs too. So this is kind of, she's got these CDs out where you just throw them on and you go into meditation while listening to these things, and she walks you through a personal regression that you're able to do for yourself. So you should try those, Ramon. Get those on some media that works good, And,
yeah.
Something you can set up the play order correctly.
Yeah.
That or
definitely.
just wait till next month.
They'll come see you.
So then we got Sherry Ann Cortland. She's a channel.
Yeah, she does. I started reading her book. I'm about a quarter of the way through. She does automatic writing, and she has something she calls her group guide. Right. And she says you have 2 main guides, but then you have like a little group that gets together, and it's souls that either from family who passed away, or people that you've incarnated with, like time and time over again, kind of helping you out. And one thing, I don't want to give the whole show away, but one thing she mentions, which I just found amazing, in her own personal life, she mentions how, I don't know if you got up to this part, Tom, where she had a chance to learn something from her first relationship, and then her second relationship.
No. I'm about halfway through the book, so yeah.
And then the third one got really badly.
Time to slam her upside the head and wake up.
Yeah. And then she had, it's like your soul sets up backup plans for you to learn something. And if you're not going to learn it that first chance, which is easy, then it gives you a second. Then you give yourself a second backup to learn something.
It's a little bit more difficult, and
yeah, a little bit more in your face, and then a third one, and she had said that she had set herself up for a fourth one, which was going to be really hard. But she learned the lesson before she got to that one.
Yeah.
So we'll go into that deeper, which, for all of us, we've had like really good relationships and really bad relationships. So that will really help us a lot.
Yeah.
So
who else? Oh, we're trying really hard to get Neil Kramer on here before the conference in the end of June. So if we're able to hook up with him, we will be shuffling the schedule a little bit to try to get him in before the conference. But who knows?
Yeah.
Regardless, whether we get him in before or not, I feel confident that we will get him during the conference. So
yeah.
A lot of good things coming.
Yeah, and still we still have a few. I just want to mention our wish list, which is Paul Levy, John Hutchison, Dr. Masaru Emoto, David Icke, and Dr. Bruce Lipton. We have a lot more that we need to add on this wish list. But yeah, if any of you guys have hookups with these people, please let us know.
Yeah.
With Bruce Lipton, is just the schedule never seems to work out.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep at him. We'll figure out. We'll get him on eventually.
We'll keep harassing him.
Yeah.
We either get him an interview or a lawsuit, one or the other.
Oh, we're radio stalkers.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, namaste.
So, yeah. Really quickly, any news, Tom, on the change of date for the?
Oh yeah, we should probably mention that. I was supposed to get a hold of Don last night, and I did not. So maybe I'll try to get a hold of him tonight after we get done here, and that's going to happen. He wants to do it soon, so we look for that. We're going to be moving to Sunday, guys, right before Brooks Agnew, and
on Channel 1, though, right? Or
on Channel 2. On Channel 2.
Oh, so it will be exactly right before Brooks.
Exactly right before Brooks on Channel 2 on BBS, and it's a good move for us, I think, in a couple of different ways. We've got one aspect of it. We'll be on the weekend in the late afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. We're going to have a lot more. I think we'll get a lot more listeners that way. More people are listening on the weekends than during the week, I believe. And they're also BBS guys are awesome there. They're going to give us a little bit of a break on the fees for running the show too. So that's going to work out great for us since we really don't generate that much in donations from the show to really cover the costs. So since it does come out of mine and Ramon's pockets, that anything in that form helps us out. So
yeah, the other thing I want to mention before we go is want to thank you to Taiwan, which is our new country. That we're up to 58 countries.
Yeah, spread the word about us, guys. Get some more people out there. Let's get our listener base up. You guys if you like what you're hearing, we got some awesome guests on here, and I feel that we're bringing out some good information. We may not be, the whoever great broadcasters out there. We may not be the George Norries, okay? But you know what? We're coming. We come from the heart, and we try to have fun while we're doing it.
And we'll stumble over our words, and we'll say "and" too many times, and but
whatever. Yeah. So we try to be. We're real. I mean, we're real, and we don't put the plastic face on, and
I keeps it real, son. Oh,
we don't put on our broadcaster voice. Well, thank you for joining us here at the 100th Monkey Radio Show, and now Ramon.
Today in the weather. No, okay.
Yeah.
So now we're just blabbing. Let's get off of here, Tom.
Yeah. Okay. We're blabbering. So namaste, my friends. Condemnation without investigation, the height of ignorance, and we will talk to you next week.
And remember, we're looking for the 100th monkey. Who is the 100th monkey? Who's the one who's gonna?
You're rambling, Ramon.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.